Every morning, before leaving the house, some people in Lebanon run a quiet calculation in their head. Who am I today, and who is safe to know? Not because they've done something wrong. Because of something they simply are. Now picture doing that in a country that projects glamour, Beirut's skyline, its restaurants, its reputation as the one Arab city where everything is permitted. A country that looks, from the outside, like it has everything figured out. That country is Lebanon. And the community we're talking about? They've been there longer than Islam. Longer than the Ottoman Empire. Longer than almost every political border you see on a modern map. Lebanese Christians. A community that helped build one of the most distinctive cultures in the Arab world, and is now quietly disappearing from it. This isn't a war story. It isn't a refugee story. Those have been told. This is something quieter, and in some ways harder to sit with. Lebanon used to be called the Paris of the Middle East. And that wasn't marketing, it was real. Beirut had a skyline, a culture, a heartbeat unlike anywhere else in the Arab world. Christians weren't just present in that story. They were central to it. They helped build it. They bled for it. But then came the forces that no community could outrun. A civil war that ran for 15 years. An economic collapse that wiped out people's life savings overnight. Hezbollah's growing shadow over the state. And then, in 2020, a port explosion so large it was felt in Cyprus, that killed over 200 people and left half of Beirut in ruins. Something shifted after all of that. And the Christians of Lebanon found themselves caught between forces pulling them in every direction, forces that made staying feel impossible and leaving feel like betrayal. So what does life actually look like for them right now? What are they holding on to? What are they quietly carrying? Because here's what the numbers don't tell you, there are roughly 4 million Christians still tied to Lebanon, either living there or scattered across a diaspora that stretches from Sao Paulo to Sydney. And almost every single one of them will tell you the same thing. They are living two lives at once. And no one is talking about it. So who exactly are these people? Lebanese Christians aren't one thing. That's the first thing you need to understand. There's Maronites, Greek Orthodox, Melkite Catholics, Armenian Christians, Assyrians, each with their own church, their own liturgy, their own complicated relationship with Lebanon's history. But walk through East Beirut, through the mountain towns of Byblos or Bchar, through the Qadisha Valley, and you'll feel something these communities all share. A deep, almost stubborn rootedness. Like the land itself remembers them. The Maronites alone have been in Lebanon for over 1,500 years. Their church never fully submitted to Rome, never fully broke from it either. They carved out their own theological identity the same way they carved their villages into cliffsides. That independence? It isn't incidental to who they are. It's the whole story. And for most of the 20th century, that story looked like power. Under the French Mandate, Lebanese Christians held enormous political influence. The president of Lebanon, by law, had to be a Maronite Christian. The army chief. Key government positions. This was the National Pact of 1943, an unwritten agreement that tried to balance power between Lebanon's religious communities based on a census that was already outdated the moment it was taken. For Lebanon's Muslim and Druze communities, that arrangement felt less like balance and more like permanent minority status, a grievance that compounded quietly for decades. That pact held Lebanon together and tore it apart at the same time. By 1975, the tension exploded into a civil war that lasted 15 years. Christians fought Muslims. Christians fought Palestinians. Christians fought other Christians. Entire neighborhoods were drawn and quartered along religious lines, and Beirut, the city that once felt like the freest place in the Arab world, became a map of checkpoints and snipers and streets you simply did not cross. When the war ended in 1990, Lebanon tried to rebuild. And for a while, it worked. Beirut came back. The restaurants, the music scene, the energy. A whole generation grew up believing the worst was behind them. They were wrong. Because what came next wasn't a war with a front line you could see. It was slower. It was economic. It was a quiet hemorrhage of people, and for Lebanon's Christians, it arrived like a tide that never fully receded, just kept pulling more of them toward the door. So what does that door actually look like when you're standing in front of it? For a lot of Lebanese Christians, it looks like a one-way ticket. To Paris. To Montreal. To Sao Paulo. Lebanon has one of the largest diasporas in the world relative to its population, and Christians make up a disproportionate share of the people leaving. Some estimates put the Christian population inside Lebanon today at under 30%, though the Lebanese government hasn't conducted an official census since 1932, which is itself part of the story. In 1932, when that foundational count was taken, Christians were over 50%. That's not a statistic. That's a civilization slowly exhaling. But here's what the emigration numbers don't capture: the ones who stay. And staying in Lebanon right now, as a Christian, requires a particular kind of psychological endurance that most people on the outside simply cannot imagine. Take daily life in a place like Akrafi, the historic Christian neighborhood in East Beirut. On the surface it looks alive. Cafes are full of people. Church bells still ring on Sunday mornings. Young people dressed like they could be in any European city. But underneath that surface, something is running constantly. A low-level calculation. A permanent awareness of which neighborhood you've wandered into, whose flags are flying on this street, and what that means if something happens today. Because Lebanon isn't one country in the way most countries are one country. It is a collection of communities that share a passport and very little else. Hezbollah controls entire regions. The state, the actual Lebanese government, has effectively collapsed. There is no functioning economy, no reliable electricity, no consistent fuel supply. In some neighborhoods, people get 2 hours of government power a day, 2 hours. And yet, Lebanese Christians are not sitting in the dark feeling sorry for themselves. That would be the easy story. They are cooking elaborate Sunday meals on generator power. They are opening new restaurants in half-destroyed buildings because beauty, to them, is a form of resistance. They are sending their kids to some of the best private schools in the Middle East because education has always been the thing no one can take from you overnight. They celebrate Christmas in a country where Christmas feels increasingly like a political statement. They hold weddings in mountain churches that have stood for 1,000 years. They argue loudly about politics over plates of kibbeh and glasses of Iraq, because silence, in Lebanon, has always been the most dangerous thing of all. They are not surviving Lebanon. They are insisting on it. The double life isn't what you think it is. It isn't checkpoints and flags. It lives smaller than that. It lives in decisions that happen before anyone else is even awake. Which name do you use when you're meeting someone new in a neighborhood you don't know? Do you mention your church? Do you wear your cross outside your shirt or tuck it underneath? Do you speak Arabic with your Lebanese accent or soften it into something more neutral? Do you post that Christmas photo publicly or keep it for close friends only? These aren't thought experiments. This is the morning routine. And what makes Lebanon uniquely painful, different from every other country where minorities quietly navigate majority spaces, is that Lebanese Christians are not a minority in the traditional sense. They helped write the Constitution. They built the universities. They were, for a significant part of this country's modern history, the dominant cultural force. And now they are carefully calculating whether to tuck their cross inside their shirt. That distance, between who you were and who you must now appear to be, is a grief without a name. But every Lebanese Christian carries it. And here's what reframes everything you've just heard. The communities most determined to stay, the ones rebuilding after the port explosion, the ones opening businesses in the rubble, the ones sending their children to school in 3 languages, are not staying because they believe Lebanon will get better. Many of them will tell you openly that they don't. They are staying because leaving would mean admitting that everything their grandparents survived was for nothing. That the churches are empty. That the villages in the mountains are just ruins with beautiful views. They are staying to be the proof that it wasn't. That is not optimism. That is something older and more stubborn than optimism. That is a people who have outlasted Rome, outlasted the Ottomans, outlasted 15 years of civil war, deciding, quietly, that they will outlast this too. Lebanon is broken. The Christians inside it know that better than anyone. But broken and finished are two completely different things. And as long as those church bells are still ringing over Beirut on Sunday morning, as long as someone is still arguing over politics and kibbeh and Iraq at a table full of people they love, that difference still matters. And if you think what's happening to Christians in Lebanon is remarkable, wait until you hear what's been happening in Egypt for the last 2,000 years. A community so ancient, so hidden, so quietly extraordinary that even most Egyptians don't fully understand them. That story is right here. And it will change how you see the Middle East. If this story stayed with you, hit subscribe to Secret Communities and turn on the bell. There are more communities like this one, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be seen. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And share this with someone who needs to hear it.